What is your take on Nostr, I guess how you pronounce it, and Ordinals?
Yeah, Nostr is really cool. I'm on Nostr. I don't post much, but it's exciting and it's growing unbelievably fast.
For those that don't know, it is a decentralized social site that basically allows you to use public address and send messages via kind of peer-to-peer relays, very similar to Bitcoin.
Yeah, so it's public-private keys. I think that the basics of the protocol have existed for like 2 decades, but it was just kind of this novel implementation of this technology. So. Kind of similar to Bitcoin, like the technology existed for a while. It was just someone kind of like finally just like putting the pieces together and introducing it in a different way. It's very exciting. It's like, you can send lightning, you can like zap people's sats. Yeah, it would just like basically like you see Twitter is like implementing Twitter coins. I don't know if you saw that, but they probably are spending all this money to implement this like their own coin and all this program. And meanwhile, we have this very, very basic, like if you look at the Nostr or the Damus app on the App Store, that's just like an implementation of the Nostr protocol. They built it on top. It's like a UX. It's like 5 megabytes. It's tiny, right? And use like relays to do it. So it's not the most user-friendly thing. Like my mom's not going to sign up for Nostr and as easy as Twitter.
Because if I ask you right now, like, hey, what's your profile?
Yeah.
You basically are going to tell me a pub key.
Yeah.
Right. Which you probably, I'm assuming, don't have it memorized.
No.
And so therefore, it's not the same thing as like, hey, follow me on Twitter at whatever, right? And so some of that has to be fixed. That doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work. It's just like it has to get to the point where it's so user-friendly that you can get even more mainstream adoption than people who are willing to kind of overlook the UI, UX stuff.
Yeah, and like for like 2 or 3 months, I saw Jack Dorsey posting about it, and he was, back when there was probably a couple hundred users, he was on that. I logged on, created a thing, and he's on there, 5 hours a day, and he's, chucking Bitcoin at developers and setting this stuff up in Africa. And I'm like, Jack's a pretty smart guy. He's created 2 massive companies, founded 2, Twitter and Square, very, very, very early to Bitcoin, and then that implementation with Square, like this guy knows what he's doing. Why is he so obsessed with this thing? And I think it's because Jack was in the middle of the storm with Twitter, with the political pressure, and understands the reality of running a public forum social media company. Mm-hmm. We don't even have to go into all the stuff that happened in 2020, 2021, the censorship. I mean, hell, I lost my back when verification was like a kind of a credentialism thing. I was like official journalist for a media company. Bitcoin Magazine's a verified media company. I was, a journalist. Posted some COVID wrongthink. I lost my verification, and they said, I got an email. You're no longer notable, and it was essentially like it was a warning shot. It was like, hey, like, and for me, like Twitter is like a pretty important part of my career and what I do, and so it was like, all right, like it was almost like I self-censored because like I don't want to get banned off this site. It's very integral to what I do. And you saw a lot of people, like prominent, scientists, whatever, that it got banned. So there's problems with centralized social media, and I think the reason Jack's so obsessive with Nostr, not obsessive, but passionate, and funding all this development, is because the idea of a decentralized identification system and social network is very, very powerful. Another kind of rabbit hole is like deep fakes and artificial intelligence. Like Pomp, both of us and you, way more than myself, have hundreds, thousands of hours of live video out there for the internet. I don't know if you've seen like the Joe Biden, Donald Trump kind of deep fakes where they're talking to each other and saying funny stuff.
I want someone to put me in the video game with Biden, Trump, and like you can throw somebody else in there and just like 2-on-2 and let us go at it.
But like it's funny, but it's also a little scary in the sense
scary as shit.
Like, I mean, this is relatively new technology. I mean, I guess they've been building it behind the scenes, but extrapolate it out, right? Just like the general trend of technology where it's going. In 5 years from now, it's probably going to be trivial to fake a video of yourself saying something, and whatever it may be, right? It could be as malicious or fun as you want to envision. But how do you verify what's real and not in a world where it costs nothing to create a fake of something, right? And we're already like, we're not screwed, but your 10,000 hours of content's already there, right? Maybe you could try to scrub it all, but you can't scrub it. So the decentralized identification as a concept, as like, okay, this is a public-private key verification system for me and what I say and what I post, right? Like, I think that's not even just with Nostr, but in general, you're going to need something like that to verify publicly in the future. And so I don't know what that world looks like, but that trend is really something that has caught my attention recently.
What about Ordinals? Are you a NFT maximalist now?
I don't have any NFT maximalist. I think it's interesting. It's it's the surprising thing was that a lot of extremely smart Bitcoin technologists, developers, like Luke Dasher Jr., like creator of the SegWit implementation, kind of solution to the block war drama conflict in 2017. And a lot of the guys that coded up Taproot didn't see this coming. And then, some of them were even saying like, you're cheating the code, right? But I don't think that at all. I think it's a novel use of block space. This is a free market. And if someone wants to pay up to put a JPEG or whatever on a blockchain, then it's a public marketplace, right? And so a lot of people are saying this solves the fee problem. I never thought there was a fee problem to begin with.
And fees have been near all-time lows, right, for quite a while.
Yeah, well, I just think that the difficulty adjustment and the trend of Bitcoin usage and adoption, there's going to, just the nature of the difficulty adjustment and mining incentives, there's going to be an equilibrium for fees in the future. If there's no fees to pay up, people will use Bitcoin to transact. I think that it's valuable enough. It's already won the censorship game, and there's nothing else immutable. So people will pay to use Bitcoin. If there's not enough fees, miners will stop mining. There's a queue of transactions will clog in the mempool. An equilibrium will be found. Now there's an additional driver for block space demand. That changes the equilibrium, but it doesn't really change the fundamental kind of truth of Bitcoin as this, open public thing that anybody can utilize. So I think it's cool. Maybe I'll mint an inscription or ordinal. But a lot of people are having fun with it. So
what's interesting to me is both of those seem to have brought a lot of attention to Bitcoin. I think that there's this one impact of like a whole new class of Bitcoiners showed up between like 2020 and 2022. Right, I think some of the data was like half of all Bitcoiners showed up in 2021. Right, and so they only knew really the economic conversation around Bitcoin. And now there's multiple examples with both of those and other things that are happening where people get like re-inspired and they're like, oh, this could be, kind of this really powerful technology. This could be used for a lot of different things. And it's hard to measure what's going on there. But I think Nostr has 700,000 people have downloaded it now or something, 700,000 users.
Wow. Like
it's a big number, right? Whatever the 500K, a million, whatever it is a big number. And then the ordinals I saw, there's tens of thousands, I think, that have been created at this point. And so like you look at that and you're like, I don't know very many companies that have brought that many people to use their products on Bitcoin like that in a long time. And so it's pretty impressive to see, what they've been able to do.
Yeah, I think it's cool that there's a certain cohort of people in crypto broadly that not like to hop from thing to thing, but like the crypto native class. It's like, okay, we're gonna mint NFTs on ETH and then hop to Solana and then do this on DeFi and whatever. And those people in general for the longest time have been like, listen, Bitcoin's cool. It's the biggest thing. It's the most liquid thing. It kind of takes the direction of the market either way. It's king, but it's boring as hell. Right. And like, I'll say this as a Bitcoiner, like Bitcoin, not its exchange rate, but like if you're trying to report on what Bitcoin does every day, it's like, okay, well, 900 Bitcoin were mined. We found a bunch of blocks, right? Like
you could write the article the day before.
Like, yeah, you can just copy paste it every day. It's like, well, Bitcoin's operating, right? Like, there's an occasional soft fork that's exciting, but like fundamentally this system is just does what it does and it just continues.
You end
to
up
chug
almost
along.
recovering Twitter. Conversation more than you do the actual blockchain, right?
Yeah. And so it is interesting that there's kind of a technological debate to it and a new class of investors excited to utilize this thing. I think that's really exciting. So it's still very nascent. I'm not really like, certainly like, could these things appreciate a whole bunch? Yeah. But the speculative art stuff, that doesn't interest me. Like I think that does a disservice because it's a new novel thing, but like, I'm not so much of like a collector myself. Maybe that'll change. We'll see.